Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. We are broadcasting live from Park City, Utah, where I am. And I know that you folks have often heard me coming from Park City. We're back here for the summer, I think. Gary, you're in San Francisco?
I am.
Yeah. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Gary and I have known each other for, I don't know how long it's been, but it's been quite a long period of time. And so we're super happy to have him with us today. We've been meaning to do this for 6 months, I think. But I think it's a very, very good time for Gary to share with you with what he's doing in his firm. I will say that I'm going to save that when the room populates a little bit more. So as you know, we can't hear or see you, but we know you're there. In fact, if somebody wouldn't mind just saying hello in the chat box to make sure we're broadcasting, I can see the room populating, but we always like to know that we're getting out there. So if anybody would just like to say hi in the chat box, that would be super cool. Thank you. If after you've seen the presentation today and you'd like to either review it or share it with others that would benefit from learning what you learned today, we're going to be posting the recording as long as it's okay with you, Gary, on the Family Office Insights YouTube channel. Thank you, Kenneth, for letting us know we're getting out there. And also we'll be sure that everybody gets in touch directly with Gary, and please feel free as usual to connect directly with him, and we'll make sure that he has all your contact information, and feel free to connect post webinar with him as your interest warrants. I have to say also Deepak just joined us, so welcome, Deepak. Where are you?
Hi, Arthur.
Hi.
I'm in Dallas.
So we're also Dallas, Texas. I have to share with you a little anecdotal story. I was pursuing an investment with some friends of mine, and it was in the space that Gary and his colleagues know well. And so I didn't even think about calling Gary because, you know, I'm not often aligned with things that I should do. But in this case, we happened to have a conversation, and I asked him about what I was doing. And it just demonstrates the further impact of being a member of Family Office Insights, to do a little commercial. But for me personally, I've leaned on many people to help me not lose my money. And Gary gave me some insights that I wouldn't otherwise get. And I admitted that I didn't understand the space well, but I was pursuing potentially investing in something. And he gave me headlines and warnings and insights that, again, I wouldn't otherwise had, that caused me to exit stage left. So really valuable resource to me personally, and I just wanted to share that with the group today. So we have about an hour together. Please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A or the chat box as they come to mind. And please do them when they come to mind, simply because we have a lot of people coming on, and we're going to try to get to as many as possible. And I'll be monitoring that for everybody. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And with that, take it away, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. I know people are still joining, so we'll just do some personal intros about myself and Deepak. Obviously, you got the message from Arthur. We're a fintech, financial technology focused group. We've been at this for 6 years, and I thank you, Arthur, for your comments about that advice we gave you. And I stand behind some comments I've said before, that over the 20 years that I've been in fintech, since I was at Visa and consulting Visa at the very senior levels, I've built a team of 80 people that are experts in the field. And so if any of you ever have questions about fintech, whether you want to invest in a startup or curious about something, we're the group to come to. We're here to talk about Carneros and Carneros Bay, and it's an interesting model. I'm going to go through it in shortly, and we'll talk a little bit about the fintech industry, but not get too deep. You're on this call because you probably are interested. But for quick background on myself, I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Been here my entire career. I was a senior executive at Visa for 6 years, and before that, I was a consultant for 8 years to them, helping them with their technology, global technology strategy, and partnerships, and competitive intelligence. I was running their intellectual property group and their partnership group and innovation group from 2008 to 2014. What I observed then in that time, I saw fintech was going to be something, and it's going to be something big. So I decided to start Carneros. And I'll get more into that later. I want to introduce Deepak Jain, longtime colleague and friend in the industry, and my CTO at Carneros. And Deepak, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Gary. Can everybody hear me well?
Yep.
Right. Okay, so this is Deepak. I've been in the Dallas area for 22 years, originally from India. I spent some time in California as well. I'm a fintech entrepreneur. I built 3 companies, and I'm on to my 4th one, which is a Carneros Pay portfolio company called Wink. I built a company in the mobile payment space. We built the first attachment to an iPad that converted an iPad into a payment terminal, eventually acquired by Square. I built a neobank called Monero, and then I built a blockchain-based person-to-person gifting company called Switch, which was recently sold to a public company out of London. At Wink, we are building a biometric camera-based authentication platform. And I'm very, very glad to be partnered with Gary at Carneros and helping all the fintechs and the financial industry get access to the best of the best as far as technology is concerned in this space. So glad to share our thoughts with you today.
Thanks, Deepak. And before I put some slides on, I'm going to try not to go to too many slides. No one loves that, but I'll share the story of how Carneros started. I gave a hint toward it when I was at Visa. I saw what was happening in the industry. I was on the corp dev team. I did a lot of diligence around the world, researching threats, opportunities, all sorts of things. And I said, there's more opportunity for me and for everyone around me to join, to leave Visa and start something. So with some high net worth friends and family offices in the Bay Area, we started Carneros initially as a closed loop incubator. So for the first half, we've been in business 6 years. For the first half of our life, we had members like Chase and TD and MasterCard, and we were developing technology, IP, and we launched 3 companies. One was sold twice for over $1 billion. Over the time, as we were adding more members, we realized we didn't want to just build things. We will continue to build things as we see and hear from our partners that there's a need and there's demand, and we can de-risk our opportunity to start something. We opened up and as we grew, Carneros really grew as a network of experts. And as we continue to grow, we just got more insights that we should open up our insights, our expertise, and not just develop things, but partner with good fintech companies. And it's been going really well. So we are on to version 2 of Carneros. Our ask today is we're raising up to $3 million. This is really our first time externally raising money. We've raised about just over 3 million over the last 6 years. We've been very efficient with our money. We've obviously raised a little bit for our launched companies. Every investor in Carneros so far is a family office or a high net worth individual or an executive from the industry. We're a family. We really do feel like we're a family. We're hoping some of you would be interested in joining this family. There's a lot of benefits, not just the economic returns that we will share, but also the things that we did with Arthur to help you and your other portfolio companies with navigating fintech, making good investments. All right, can everyone see my screen? Deepak, yeah?
Yes, now it's full screen. Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to for the next couple of slides, we'll just talk about the fintech space, what's happening in it. Deepak's going to take us through the next couple, and then we'll get into the Carneros model.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, so the fintech market space has been one of the fastest growing sectors as far as private investments are concerned. Some of the large names that the Apples and the Amazons and the Facebooks of the world have also launched big fintech operations of their own. And it's one of the largest sector in terms of VC investments. As you know, 2018, half of the money was in fintech. It's even grown bigger since then. So if you want to go to the next slide, Gary, the fintech market, when it started off, the fintech was considered by everyone as a threat to the large banks. Everybody said that this is a space where companies can come, use technology, and make the large banking institutions and even other financial institutions obsolete. Over the last couple of years, it has evolved to now becoming a friend of the banks, not just a way um, for the banks to adopt new technology, but also a way to modernize how they interact with consumers, how they launch new services, how they protect everybody's data. So there are some very key segments within fintech that have seen some explosive growth. I'm sure everybody has heard about blockchain and digital currency. That's, you know, a very hot topic. Recognizing how money moves and how some of the old barriers of doing transactions can be eliminated. Similarly, in the mobile banking space, the fact that now you can get a new credit card right on your iPhone by Apple, that's a great example of how fintech has changed um, access to new services for consumers. And now all the banks want to try to replicate consumer services, consumer experiences like those. Um, how small businesses, how small companies and small enterprises can access some of these financial services, that's another area. And as I mentioned, how data is protected, how artificial intelligence and machine learning is used to make financial services better, affordable, more powerful. Those are some very key trends that are happening in this world, where we see as Carneros um, not just what is the leading companies, so what are the leading companies in these areas, but what are some of the open opportunities. We have a unique vantage point because of our expert network that Gary will talk about, because of our access to these companies that we interact with and our access to the large banks. We have a unique perspective on what is evolving, what is making sense, and what holds the best potential in terms of future growth. This is where we have a very, very differentiated opportunity for you all. I'll hand you back to you, Gary.
Yeah, no, and just to add to that, our first company we launched in 2017 as a result of conversations with our investors, with our bank partners, because we have MSAs with MasterCard and TD Bank and Wells and several others. And obviously we're going to share a lot more on follow-up calls about all of our partnerships and the network that we have that drives all this. But the first company we launched in our first version of our model was a crypto custodial platform that allowed for institutional sales of digital currency. And that's the one that was acquired twice. We saw where it was going. We talked to the folks in the space, and lo and behold, that's why we launched it. And we have 2 or 3 of those going on right now that are forward-looking, but definitely where the industry is going. So moving on, so as we grew from about 7 or 8 ex-Visa architects, CTOs, product leaders, and my team from the innovation and IP team, we've grown from 8 to 75 people, and they're all on contract. They're not full-time employees. You might be asking that question, how can you have survived so long with just a handful of $1 million we raised? But they're all, some of them don't need to work for a paycheck. Some of them just want to do interesting projects. Some of them are compliance people. So when I have a compliance thing, I bring them in, or an opportunity. So it's really an unprecedented set of experts. With, you know, we've been involved, have launched and oversaw or participated in over 50 exits in the space, either at Visa or on our own. And as we grew, And as banks got to know us, that's how we started these relationships. We had not only MSAs with banks and other financial institutions, but NDAs. So we talk to them quarterly at the very least. They tell us their strategic challenges or their initiatives, what their budget is for next year, what they're spending it on. How can we help them do it better and more successfully? Banks are notorious for being slow. So let me just raise that as a point of challenge, which everyone says, well, wow, this might sound good as you learn more, but what are the headwinds? Headwinds are banks are slow. So we've learned to be patient, but we've also have a successful track record of working with them to help them make decisions more efficiently, help them with diligence. And in fact, one of the reasons why we look at least 5 fintechs every week is because our banks and our network of investors or our expert groups are saying, hey, guys, look at this company. In fact, I'm doing that for Arthur on Friday. What do you think? Is this another Me Too, or is this onto something? What's the team look like? So we have a great view that comes into our pipeline of things that are happening, not only on the startup side, but also what the banks and the buyers really want. And one thing, so we not only engage on the bank side with advisory or consulting fees, that's not our model, you'll get to that, but it leads us to partnerships with fintechs. So we have over 20 fintech partners we are contracted with, where we get revenue share, we get equity, we get all sorts of different value streams that really you'll see can be eye-popping as we grow this thing. So one reason why we've waited and been patient, we've got all of the right banks, small banks, big banks, other players like MasterCard and Visa, and now we have a nice cohort of fintechs that we are kind of creating deals with. So this is what our model is about. The people on the team, I just want to reiterate, I was in the room with Steve Jobs, Lieutenant, when we launched Apple Pay at Visa. We knew that NFC payments was going to be a thing. This is 12 years ago. We knew it was going to be slow to adopt, but we've also, digital wallets, the crypto platforms, the tools that are in market today, someone from the Carneros team has been involved in it, either as building it or launching it, overseeing it. I'm not the smartest one in the room. My team and collectively we are, I want all of you, as you're interested, to leverage that expertise, whether it's for your other portfolio companies, whether you want to be participating in Carneros in one way, shape, or form. But if you're interested at all in fintech, I would love to talk. So we are a bit of a unique company. We're not, you can't put us in a box. We're not a consulting firm by no stretch. None of us want to scale a consulting business. That's not really scalable, not the kind of returns we're looking for, but we do it selectively for folks like MasterCard. We do M&A due diligence for MasterCard. So we know what they're looking at to buy and others. And so we do those, so we have that vantage point that Deepak mentioned. A lot of investors that are our family office friends and other PE firms and other fintech funds come to us and we partner. We've got 3 offers from venture funds to launch our own fund and leverage our deal flow and, get part of their carry and interest. So it's evolving now. Predominantly where our recurring revenues are coming from is from our fintech accelerator business, where we're taking these fintechs. We got about anywhere from seed. Actually, we have a couple that are pre-seed all the way to Series B companies where we're contracted and we share in the revenues that we help them generate. And then our startup incubator, we just launched Wink. You can look it up. We have some of the biggest names behind us. We can't say it unless we're under NDA. But we will launch a company. This is Carneros' 4th company. That's part of our model. We do them very efficiently. We do them de-risked, and we will probably, on average, we're doing it every 18 to 24 months. And so investors in Carneros get pro rata interest in all those startups. And so our first investors got to win with our first sale on Hedge, which was the crypto platform. And then new investors or any investors now will get pro rata interest in all the things we have in place, plus what's coming up. So we don't have anyone, we cover all grounds of fintech and financial services, as you can see. And I've mentioned this. So this is where our value comes from. We get the advisor equity. We have equity stakes, non-investment equity stakes in over 6 companies right now, all of which are thriving and growing. We got equity at very, very favorable valuations. So you'll see later in the financial slide, it looks large, but some of these are really going to grow nicely. So our equity value will grow. We'll have exits with those in probably 18 to 24 months. Revenue share is, the recurring revenues from deals that we create with our contracted fintech partners. From the beginning of, and I mentioned consulting fees and why we do that, but from the beginning, as a result of our first version of Carneros, when we were launching companies, we have about a dozen patents. Some of them are right on point with mobile payments and security and where the world is going, because we knew it. So we have an opportunity to license that. And we had that as part of our membership model, and that'll be part of our model going forward too. So Deepak, I think I'll let you go through this one a little bit, just to sort of round out, how the position we have amongst the financial services space.
Yes, so as you mentioned, this model is very unique. I think one of the audience asked the question, are we a investment firm or are we an advisory firm? Can you go back to full screen, Gary?
Oh my, I didn't mean to do that. Apologies.
So we have a very, very interesting flywheel here, where we do make some very, very selected incubation type venture investments, like we have just made in Wink. That creates for us a way to showcase the best of the best to our financial institutions. Some of the large finance institutions then expose to us the problems that they want solved, which could fall in many of the strategic areas that we talked about, blockchain or big data or AI. We then go out and find the right fintech partners for those problems to get solved. And that's where we make arrangements with several different fintech service providers. So that creates a platform where banks can come to us and get their problems solved. It also creates a platform for fintech investment, for fintech companies to come to us to help their products and services get exposure to those finance institutions. And over time, as this flywheel turns, some of the folks who are in the finance institutions, they have a new idea and they want to start another fintech company. So they come to us to get their ideas vetted. And if those ideas make sense, we can even help them incubate their concept and create a new fintech company, and then help them get funded and do their seed rounds and so on. So that's a very interesting flywheel that you're not going to find elsewhere in the industry, where we do a bit of everything. So it might sound like we are doing, a mishmash of a lot of different things, but it's really well thought out, as we have access to not just the early stage companies that want to get presented to the banks. We also have access to the large banks that want access to the best of the best in terms of technology, and we sort of enable those relationships. That's really a very unique proposition of Carneros Pay. Back to you, Gary.
I'll pause because I don't see the chat
Gary?
screen. Arthur, I was going to go to you for any questions that have popped up.
Yeah. So, but can you see the screen okay, Gary, or no?
I just got
okay. It's okay. I thought that's what you said.
Yeah,
so
I'm not seeing the chat, but I'll get back to it.
Oh no, it's okay. You don't need to see that. The Deepak answered that, but there's a Q&A I'll get to in a second. So there's lots of noise in the marketplace that companies want to have their own venture to solve the venture enterprises within the institution to solve the problems that they think they can solve. And as banks, we all know they move slow. When they identify a problem that they need solved, and they come to you, for example, are they, and I know that's probably idiosyncratic to the problem they need to solve often, but are they saying, okay, help us find the company that solves this problem, or create it or fund it? Are they also voting with their checkbook with you in some way to to catalyze that to happen?
In many cases, yes. Not all cases, of course, right? We don't have relationships with every FI, but you can see on this screen a sampling of some of our partners like Wells Fargo. We're very tied in with their investment group, their fintech accelerator and incubator they have internally, and it's tied to their corporate VC group. They come to us every quarter. What do you have? What have you seen? Here are the 3 or 4 areas that we're really investing in. And they know that we're not going to come back to them with anything that isn't worth looking at. You know, there's, for instance, in the AI space, we could put 20 companies right now on the screen, and that would be a fraction of who's out there offering AI to financial services companies. But we go through and screen them, and obviously we have both sides of the spectrum: the buyer side, what they need, what their restrictions are, what their rules and compliance needs are, and then the startups. And if they're not going to be prepared to engage with the financial institution, they don't have it hardened, they don't have the right team or the right direction or the right words, then we're not going to put it in front of Wells. And so not everyone invests, but the ones you see on the screen, they do. Not the smaller ones, but the larger ones will. And every corporate VC group is a bit different. Some are just starting up, some are on their 3rd version because they were so timid to write a check because, bank executives are so comfortable. They're scared about making a bad.
Yeah, they don't want to lose their job, right? Yeah. So
anything else?
Yeah, one of the questions, and maybe you're going to get to this, but it might be helpful to, in investment and your ask into Carneros Bay, is that in the corporate entity that participates as in all the revenue streams? Is that how it works?
That's correct. So I have a slide coming up that talks about the benefits to the family office investor. But it is, to answer your question, succinctly, an investment in Carneros Bay Capital LLC is an investment in Carneros Bay Capital LLC. We have, and that then, any investor in Carneros gets their pro rata stake in our portfolio companies, all of which are non-investment based, except Wink. Wink was the first one we put some money in because we knew how big it was going to be. Yeah. And with Deepak leading it for his 4th startup, I was very confident in doing that.
Yeah.
So we're not. So that's where the question of are we a venture firm? We're not. We look like one. Some people describe us as one. We're really a hybrid. We've been asked by a lot of venture folks to kind of get into that space, and we partner with them so that they can do that and we can do what we do, which is launch these de-risked companies and platforms, partner with the ones that we like, generate a nice stream of recurring revenues that's going to grow over time as we build and build this momentum, and see our value grow on the equity side in multiples as we help those companies thrive with our partners. So that's that virtuous cycle of value we're creating.
And the recurring revenue could be characterized as your business development arm for them, right? Bringing them revenue, right?
Yes, that is one characteristic of it for sure. Yep.
So let's, you tell me if this is a good place for this question. We have a question from the group is, what are the specific favorite verticals within the fintech stack that you believe hold the greatest growth potential going forward?
Great question, man. Whoever asked that, I would love to have this conversation.
Nicholas,
just to be in the coming days or week, if you want for it, because that's a solid question. And I'm going to lean on Deepak to see what his thoughts are, and I'll comment on it too.
Yeah. So in the US market specifically, what is really driving a lot of interest is this thing that we call fintech of things, which I think Arthur mentioned also in his comments. Every company that has a consumer base wants to offer financial services and retain that customer within their own brand. So if I'm a Peloton, I want to offer my customers a Peloton credit card. right? If I am a merchant, I want to offer my shoppers a way to pay me over installments directly without sending them to a bank and take a loan and come back to me with that cash, right? Which used to be the things that people used to do before. So this momentum of everyone wants to offer financial services to their customers directly under their own brand. This is what some people refer to as open banking, some people refer to as embedded finance. We refer to it as fintech of things. This is the process of converting your customers into fintech or financial services customers, whichever industry you might be in. So this is one of the biggest trend in the US. Um, as When you go away from that and you start talking more from a tech perspective, more horizontal trends are around the blockchain space, where everybody wants to utilize the capabilities of a decentralized distributed ledger technology. That's obviously very hot. And also the whole AI and ML space. These are horizontal trends that apply to all the segments. So those are some of the real hot areas that we see. Lending and insurance and some of these verticals are also heavily looking to adopt these main trends. So we see those cross sections that are, overlaps that are happening between some of these vertical industries that want to become financial services players or fintech players. Over to you, Gary.
Yeah, no, well said. And then the vertical, and to complement that one step further, is the just seemingly endless opportunity with what Deepak just said as this fintech of things, and all these companies, in other fintechs too. We're doing a lot of fintech to fintech deals because they have different constituent customers and they can actually offer their services to each other's respective consumers and app users or whatnot. But the vertical play, you're talking about healthcare and things, insurance, education. We've got some interesting things going on there in education and tuition payments and loans, and the digitization of everything that we're all experiencing. We have been experiencing for 20 years, and it continues at a nice clip. Is bothersome in some parts of our life, but it's just opening up so much of these opportunities. And some of these things aren't new capabilities, but the platform in which it's offered, the manner in which the consumer is engaged, the things that you're connecting so you can enable, whether it be payments or loans or data, to be more effectively managed, is the opportunity. And I think that's why you see, what is it, 10,000 fintechs in the US alone. There's so many different reports, but there's so many, and it's a rush. It's a rush to claim that land, that space, and you've seen valuations go up, and that's because there's a lot of opportunity. Even if you're not the end all be all winner, you will be part of the solution that will be the next multi unicorn or whatnot. So we're still in the very early stages of fintech. You might think, oh my gosh, we've seen some valuation, decompression recently. Well, we've seen it everywhere. But this is going to be a very sticky and very sustainable industry from our vantage point. There's just so much inefficiencies in banking. Everyone's scrambling to kind of stay in business or be that next solution for their consumers. So we've talked about what we do, but I wanted to sort of say the next two slides are really oriented towards you folks on the call, family offices and investors in Carneros. So this first thing I highlighted, and we'll get, aside from any investment you might make and the benefit from that and the returns you will realize, many of our investors also love the fact that we get to see all this deal flow, and then therefore, if you're part of the Carneros family, you get to see them as well. There's no obligation to invest in them, but we will give you our candidate feedback. And plus, if you see deal flow on your side that we don't see. You get to share it with us. We get to give you our expertise, just like we did with Arthur a few weeks ago. So these are some of the qualitative benefits you get from being part of Carneros. So yeah, some of that due diligence support I mentioned. And then as we launch our own companies, like when we just launched Wink, some of our investors jumped in right away. Many of them, the industry folks, industry veterans, and some actually CEOs I can't mention, who they know where it's going. So they were allowed to invest in it, and they're getting an unfair advantage there. So we're not a fund, no 2% for your carried interest. We're going to have very tax efficient distributions with our portfolio exits, just like our first one we had with Hedge. We will, a lot of our investors joined it because they don't want, it's an LLC, it's a tax efficient vehicle. They want us to reinvest our cash into more high value generating things like Wink and launch these companies, and that's where real value is seen and realized. A handful are interested in opting into getting some dividends through the recurring revenue that we're going to be generating from our fintech contracts, which is interesting and we're exploring, but we don't do that today. But you're going to get handsome returns because of the position we have, and any further conversations we can get you into a little bit more of the partners and the equity pieces we have, and the partners we have for the recurring revenue. And so I think I've covered most of these ones, but we have some visible and attractive exit opportunities for even Carneros. We had, I guess, 2 proposals last year to be acquired by a global venture private equity group who saw what we were doing, and they weren't really into fintech, and they saw Carneros being a great addition to their team to really keep doing what we're doing, and while they'd work in other industries. We explored it seriously, but we said, our board, and which is our initial investors, 2 big family offices out here in the Bay Area, said, well, why would we sell right now when we have so much going on and so much in play? Let's just continue to turn the dial and mine what we've built. And so that's what our decision is, but it's going to be attractive for any investor in Carneros, probably 3 to 5 years, or we can just keep going. My vote is keep going. I'm having a lot of fun. So the other thing about this is we only work with people that we like, that are smart, that love what we're doing. You become part of our family. We meet with you. We have joint calls. A lot of our family offices are, kind of have commingled and are doing deals together, and that's been wonderful. And one thing I will say that I would ask you to do if you consider an investment in Carneros is I'll give you the 12 or 13 individuals and family offices that are already in. Talk to any one of them and get their perspective and hear directly from them and some of them have been along with our journey longer than others, so those would see the longer term view, but totally welcome that. And I would expect it from a family office group to invest in, because we really are acting like a family.
Gary, can I just ask a question real quick? If you, to the extent that you can share, when you were talking about the investment in Wink,
yeah,
and that others jumped in, aside from it being unusual that you wrote a check as opposed to not writing a check, how does that look for investors? I think it's clear it looks like, since you're a shareholder in the LLC or a limited partner, then you participate in the Wink investment success. But was there an opportunity to invest outside of Carneros if you chose to?
I'll say one thing, and I'm going to let Deepak, since he's got the best vantage point, and he's the one to share what he's willing to share. But I'll say this, that Carneros and Carneros investors at the very get-go were offered and did receive very preferential terms before subsequent investors in the pre-seed round. And it's gone very, very well. So I don't know, Deepak, if you are willing or want to disclose kind of where Wink's gone in just the short time that it's been in play.
Yeah, absolutely. I am happy to share that Carneros, since the firm was incubated within Carneros, the Carneros investor base came in at a $5 million valuation. Our last round was at 25 million, so that is already been multiplied 5x. We are expecting the seed round late this year to be in the 50 to 75 million range as far as valuation is concerned. So the investment's gone extremely well for Carneros Bay. And to answer the other question, yes, Arthur, not only did Carneros investors participate through Carneros, but several of them made direct investments in subsequent rounds. And not only that, they also brought in a bunch of other industry veterans and friends and folks who can really make a difference to the Wink journey by introducing customers, partners, and more avenues into the market. And they've got some real solid people to hop on the journey as well. So it's worked both ways.
Yeah, super helpful. I think that anecdotal story gives some insight on how things might work, right? That's really what I was trying to get at. So thank you. That was super helpful. Can we take one more question? And then are you seeing anything in the cannabis space, i.e. fintechs that are looking into the cannabis, being mindful of what's going on with, with the regulatory issues and being federally legal and all that business?
We've seen a number of cannabis plays. We've stayed away from them for the reason you just shared.
Yeah.
And mentioned. That's very visible. It's a tough space, and for us, we're watching it, we monitor it, but why would we touch it when we have so many other, thriving kind of unrestricted opportunities without the federal government being able to swatch it down at a moment's notice? Deepak, any other thoughts?
No, very well said. Nothing
Yep.
to add.
So yeah, back on that, just thank you, Arthur, for that first question on the opportunity, how
You bet.
our position at 5 million has gone to 25, and in short order will be at 50 to 75, and that's in less than a year. And that may sound silly or may sound fine, whichever. You might all have different experiences with returns, and of course you say, well, it's valuation, inflation, but it's part of that whole kind of recipe of, we didn't launch this just because we thought it would be cool. We launched it because the household bank name, which I can't say, and household other FI came to us. We're talking about authentication and changing and getting rid of passwords and password resets, and how do we make checkout easier? How can we use face and voice and make that a two-factor authentication, so we no longer have to do these one-time passwords and you forget your password, think of another 12-digit number, or can't use your kids' names, whatever it be. So we knew, and we had out of the gates industry stalwarts that were going to adopt the product, and we know how to build things, and they know that. So that's a great example current, and you can watch the Wink story. We have a press release we sent out just I guess last week or maybe 10 days ago, and of course we'll get into more details if anyone wants to, and hopefully you'll be some interest in learning more, even just about the team or questions about the industry. If you want to just talk, that's fine too. This has been on the slide or on the screen for a little bit. You can see the sort of the white bar being our total value of revenue plus equity positions. And, we also have that IP portfolio that is not a huge part of this, but obviously you can see the predominant value generator is in the equity positions that we've received, predominantly through non-equity investments, non-investments. We have several more coming in that space, in that, take partnerships like that. And there's no end of opportunity, but we're very selective on who we partner with. And we haven't been focused on revenue because we've been building the platform. I use the word platform loosely, building the network of experts, going through the first version of Carneros and being a closed loop incubator with the memberships of the banks and others that benefited from Hedge and some other things we did. And then once we opened up and started partnering with more banks, large and small, because we were used to be just focused on tier one banks, just because of, I guess, my experience at Visa and meeting with the tier one banks every quarter in New York. They were my friends. It was easy to start with them, but they were also the hardest to work with. So now we've added on smaller banks in the Midwest, Southeast that are fintech banks and really growing fast and want to do more things and actually can do more things. And frankly, because they're smaller, we can all make more money with working with them. So we haven't been focused on revenue until, now we have these contracts, and I'm just sitting back going, and we have a data room, we can share all the contracts we have and the terms and, on the rev share. That rev share estimate there is very conservative. The more people and the more deals we get through the finish line, just using the partners we have today, we can magnify that revenue stream. So you can see where we're going with the various points of value. So raising up to 3 point, like I said at the beginning, raising up to 3. We could do more, we could do less, but that seems like a good number for what we need. And again, you can talk to our family office friends. Some of them are billionaires, and they love us because we are very, very cheap as far as using our funds and spending our pennies wisely. So lean and mean. We see it. We have a long view of, we're not going to hire 50 salespeople. No, we are an expert group. We are well respected, and we are going to be very efficient with it. That being said, here's our use of funds. We need a few more people. Essentially, I already have them identified. Part of my expert network, they're kind of just contractors. I use them as I need them. But now that we've got this pump primed, I'm going to bring about 3 or 4 of them on in full time. They're basically going to be minions, of Deepak and me, really cranking up that value, helping our portfolio companies with deals to get their valuation up, also getting the revenue share as well. So that hopefully gives you a perspective of what we're doing. Now that's what we set up. We wanted to be light on slides, but it felt like we were kind of heavy. So happy
No, it's totally fine.
Go through any more questions and comments and go from there.
If you don't mind, an editorial by me. For a very long time, people have admired Berkshire Hathaway for how well it's done. And many have tried to suggest that funds are nice, ventures nice, hedge funds are nice. But if you built a corporate entity that had all the benefits, much like Berkshire Hathaway as a corporate entity, you never had to sell anything. And the tax efficiency sans the leverage that Berkshire Hathaway has in that it creates capital because it's an insurance company. And I don't need to tell people, hold on, you want to answer that just in case? All the details about the insurance company balance sheet beauty, but one would argue that what you're doing is building a corporate entity that doesn't need to deploy capital unless it wants to, and can continue to grow with equity in multiple companies, and never has to either sell itself, or it could just decide to sell things within it and throw the money back in and continue to grow. I mean, I just happened, my editorial part, that's how I built my family office holding company, because I didn't necessarily try to replicate Berkshire Hathaway, but I didn't see any reason, if something was good, I could just slice it. It was a good time to monetize it. I could just slice it off, but I didn't need to give away the mothership, right? So anyway, that's all to say in a convoluted way that I like that design, right? And, funds are anxious to deploy capital, even if they don't think it's the best thing, because they have to get it off their balance sheet and demonstrate that they're doing something with investor money. So just a little editorial there.
Yeah,
right?
A great comment. And it's, a lot of similarities to the model we have.
Yeah, super cool.
Very well said, Arthur. Very well said.
Yeah. I looked at Winkler real quick. I think I would encourage everybody to look at them as a representation of the type of thing that you're doing, and super helpful.
And we went through kind of I think just there weren't a lot of questions, but yes, you try to, are you venture firm, are you this or that, and we're a hybrid.
Yeah.
kind of like what you described, Arthur, and happy to go through more of it in a slower pace, dig into certain areas of it, more deeply if there's interest, and or just answer questions people have on fintech and the space and what we're seeing.
Yeah, no, I super appreciate it. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this. If it's okay with you, I'd like to do it again at some point. My treat, and because I think that the community would be even more interested now that I have better clarity on what's going on and that the community does. And then we can follow Wink too as things grow. So if it's okay, maybe we can do it again soon.
Follow Wink, follow Let You Let, which is our partnership with Airbnb, which is going through its own round right now, and hiring a new CEO. So yeah, there's lots to follow, and I'll take you up on your offer if you think the community would love to hear it at another time. And
I think it would be great. Yeah, super helpful. And Deepak, thanks for joining us today. Gary, nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur.
Stand by for the follow-up. And
right.
As I said to everybody on the call, we'll make sure you get in touch directly with Gary, and you can all take it from there. And if there's anybody that you think would benefit from hearing what you heard today, you can either share the link to the webinar or just go ahead and call Gary and also take it from there. So you want to wrap it up with a final comment, Gary?
No, just thank you, Arthur. Yeah, it's been a long time coming to, getting to know you, and also finally out in front of some of your folks in the network. So looking forward to hearing from any or all of you if you just to pursue it and consider being part of our family.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And as I say always, a hyperbolic term, but it's true. Thank you for sharing with us the only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. Thanks, guys. Till next time.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.